It's time for the Drugless Doctor. Call a friend or family member now and let them benefit from today's exciting and life-changing program. If you want to lead a healthier life, the time is now.
Hello, this is Dr. Bob, Dr. Anthony, and Dr. Kason DeMaria. I'd like to welcome you once again to another episode of the Drugless Doctor. Tonight we're going to talk about a condition or conditions that impact health of everybody around the world. It's pretty basic what we're going to be talking about, but it is so basic the ramifications are global because it impacts everybody's health. And you know, you heard the old adage, you are what you eat, and Hippocrates has been known to have said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. Well, as chiropractors, we know that the spine and the nervous system controls function in your body, but along the way, what you eat also can impact the spine and the nervous system, and oftentimes that is news to people because the whole body is just one big contiguous unit, a big puzzle. Each piece impacts the other piece, and we have been so fortunate to be able to learn, and we have people that come to see us all the time that we make a difference in their lives. And so this is heartfelt, and we have the clinical-based evidence to make a difference. Dr. Anthony.
Now, what's really cool is just seeing people from all walks of life, all ages, be able to come in and have great life change through chiropractic care, through lifestyle changes and diet. And one of the things that we've seen a lot with people over time is what we're going to be talking about here for a little bit is ADHD. Many people have attention challenges, and I know that you might be sitting with somebody and say, it's him, it's me. I'm going and I keep going and I don't have enough attention to be able to focus. Well, it's been some time now that Dr. Bob's wrote this book. It's called Dr. Bob's Guide to Stopping ADHD in 18 Days. And I know that it's a tremendous resource for many people that are looking for help with ADHD and ADD challenges. So, Dr. Bob, what was one of the reasons that you decided to write this book, and how did you get the ball rolling with participating with people with ADHD?
You know, Dr. Anthony, that is a tremendous question. I learned back in the 1980s that about what a half-life was. I read another individual's a book on clinical nutrition. In the book, he made a statement that the half-life of a fat called trans fatty acid happens to be 51 days. That means if you ate a food that says partial hydrogenated oils or trans fat, it interrupts normal function in the body, especially the way that the brain sends messages down nerves. Well, in the mid to late 1990s, a local newspaper in our area did this huge article about Ritalin, and they had a map of the United States, and it showed where all the Ritalin was being consumed because of the way that the Ritalin was being classified, so they had to keep track of it. And what's really interesting also is in the front page of the USA Today, they had a little snapshot of the United States that had a picture of where all the snack food is consumed in America. So I would hold on to some of these articles, not knowing why, but I did, and I literally had this epiphany. The map of the snack food was overlaid by the map of the United States where all the Ritalin was being consumed. So at the time, most of the quote-unquote junk food was being consumed right in the heartland, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. And wouldn't you know it, there's a small county in the upper state of Michigan that was consuming most of the Ritalin in the United States. And then the second most was over on the East Coast with Vermont and New Hampshire. So both of these areas ate the most snack food. And it was almost like a visitation to my brain that there had to be something between the two. So then I just started doing a little bit more research. And my wife Debbie and I decided, if you're going to write a book, so this is before Amazon, this is in like 1999, and I want you to know, for all of you that are watching me, been watching me over the years, when I went to college, I flunked my very first creative writing paper. I had to go back to my old high school student moderator, and she helped tutor me in English, and wouldn't you know it, 8, soon to be 9 books later, we've changed the world. So we did this pilot program, and this is a very interesting true story. All my stories are true. We put out to the public that we needed to do a pilot program, so we invited people to come in, and we interviewed individuals because we wanted them to commit to 102 days or 3 months. And there was this one boy, he was 6 years old, and he was looking at my wife. He was doing this, right at my wife's face. And we kind of looked at each other, and I said to the mom, so what's going on? And she said he had something called OCD. And I said, so what's OCD? And she said, opposition defiant disorder. And I said, really? What does that mean? She said, whatever we say, he does the opposite. And I thought, well, anyways, he did not participate with the program. But I'm here to tell you that I had this theory that if you ate good food, and it's all based on physiology, and we'll talk about that in the next segment about cis fat and trans fat. Well, the half-life of good oil is about 18 days. So I had this theory that if we could make some lifestyle changes with these kids, we should see a change within a 3-week time period. So we had our first meeting, and my wife and I have not consumed alcohol since 1991. And after this 2-hour meeting, I was probably that close to going back and drinking alcohol again. I mean, I could see how teachers could literally be at their wits' end. Well, after our very first meeting, we gave everybody a pilot program, so we gave them the nutrients. Some fine companies supported us, gave it to us for free. And when we came back 3 weeks later, this is a true story, 85% of the kids were better within a 3-week time period. So the original title of the book was Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD, period. That was my first original cover. So what happened was I saw these kids responding to our protocol within 18 days. So that's when we changed the cover of the book, and it was Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 days. And I want you to know this, for all of you who've been listening to me over the years, it's not always been easy being Dr. Bob. I have like Teflon coating because people throw tomatoes and rocks at me, and it is okay. I got so much heat on Amazon that they were saying that I was a nutcase because I could state the fact I was being arrogant that I could help ADHD in 18 days. But it really showed their ignorance, because if they read the book, in the book I say the half-life of certain oils is 18 days. So Dr. Anthony, the reason I did it is my purpose is to make a difference in people's lives just like you. And it's kind of interesting, before we started the program, ADHD kids become ADHD adults. And then one last thing, because I could go on this for hours, I have this test that I did. This is back when malls were really, people were at food courts. It's called the Bounce the Leg Test. So here's what I want you to do. When you go to a mall, you're going to an eatery, and you see, especially men, they're bouncing their legs, they probably have ADHD, because that's misdirected energy. Wow, it's really wild, but we've been enjoying it, so that's my answer.
So what you're telling me is you think, because if you go back and see it, you started to observe patterns when you're looking at maps of the United States, and you said, this pattern looks like this pattern. There must be something that's going on here, and it caused investigation. And then you looked up oils, and then you found out about half-lives, and then you found out about half-lives of good oils, and then you came up with an idea that doing chiropractic care with diet and nutrition with these kids would make a difference in their lives, and 85% of them got better within 18 days. So what you were doing is you came up with a theory, you tested it, you saw the results, and you were able to put that into a book form. And I understand people are usually defiant to things that they don't, or have an ignorance to, and don't want to learn a little bit about. So that was what you're talking about, is having darts and arrows and tomatoes and stones. I would call that metaphorically thrown at you. So I completely understand in those particular areas. Now, when it comes to Dr. Bob's Guide to ADHD, let's talk a little bit about a test that someone could do to really kind of figure out what's going on with oil in their body, because oil is super important, because we were talking about the half-life of good oil. What's a good assessment for somebody that wants to have a visual on what's going on inside of their body there, Dr. Bob?
Well, what I'm holding in my hand right now is a dipstick, and this is a dipstick. So for all of those that have never changed the oil in your car, a dipstick goes into the block of the engine, and it gives you an idea if you are low on oil. And if it's really dark, it's time to change the oil. But cars today, they actually beep and they tell you it's time to change your oil. So before I had this hypothesis in the pilot program, I didn't have any way to test the oil. So just because technology is such a blessing, there is the ability now with just the pinprick of a little lancet, we can take blood from your finger, any finger you choose, it's painless, and we put it on a blotter and we can send it to a lab in Georgia, and the lab will send us the results. We have that posted on the screen right now. It's the essential fatty acid blood spot test. So what's really unique about this test is the test validated Dr. Anthony and Dr. Kaysen everything that I said. And it was so glorious when I started doing it at first because, I mean, I really wasn't hoping that it would all be positive, but I was really praying that all these people's blood tests would come back with high trans fat and low DHA or low ALA, which you'll see, which is on the screen. But what's happened to this over time, and this is also phenomenal, we see individuals that have MS. We see individuals that have depression. Let me just rattle your brains a little bit right now. We can forecast with this essential fatty acid blood spot test if you have the possibility to get Alzheimer's and dementia. Hello, how many of you want to get Alzheimer's and dementia? Nobody does. I had a lady that came in yesterday. She's only in her office because she does not want to get Alzheimer's or dementia. So this physiology that we learned with ADHD, this is the basics. So the same physiology that causes ADHD leads to depression, could lead to anxiety, could lead to dementia, could lead to Alzheimer's. So it's almost like when you look at an Alzheimer patient, somewhere along the line, they made choices that were probably not appropriate for them. And Dr. Anthony alluded to the fact of chiropractic. When we had these kids come into the office and we did the pilot program, we in fact did x-ray every one of them. A normal neck is 45 degrees. I want you to know that every one of these kids had a neck curve of 10 degrees. So not only did we change their diet, we also adjusted their spine. And I'll leave you with this thought. We had one of the young men that was in the pilot program that used to get pneumonia every year since he was born. He also had something called chicken skin. Actually, he was one of my first TV guests 15 years ago. It went away. So if you have any kind of health challenge right now, you don't know what to do, you got to come and see us at CLE. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. I'm a chiropractor because my goal, my passion is to help people get better without medication.
There's different types of chiropractic. I wanted to be involved in something that was bigger than myself.
Sure, I would say it's been so much more than just seeing those lives transform. It's been being able to be a part of their transformation.
Wellness is a state of mental, social, and physical well-being.
Really, wellness is from the inside out, being able to have your body make the decisions on its own, naturally, without drugs, medications, or surgeries.
We work and strive at addressing each one of those different facets of wellness so that it's really a well-rounded overall approach for an individual.
I think the atmosphere is really very welcoming. I think all three really work well together as a team.
It's much more than you would find somewhere else. The individuality of it, the recommendations, the doctor's expertise.
We do not use a cookie cutter plan. Every person that comes into our office is very unique, and they have specific plans and treatment protocols specific for their findings.
Utilizing our innovative tools and technology, we're able to get the best results and faster, and it's really easy on the practice member, specifically with the thermal scans that we do. By measuring the ambient skin temperature, we're able to measure from each assessment how the pattern's changing.
We offer digital video fluoroscopy, motion films of a person's spine, getting right to the root cause.
From someone that was previously diagnosed with ADHD and was having developmental delays in speech, working with them here and seeing the transformation of them developmentally, other things, attention span, energy, colic, all these things that are improving over a period of time.
So whether it's a little baby that's getting adjusted for the first time, or a mom that's getting adjusted, or an athlete, it's really cool to see what we're able to do and how that can impact their life for the long term.
The two things, chiropractic care and nutrition, go hand in hand, And you really need both components. You can't just say, I'll do whatever I want nutritionally and then just have chiropractic care and Dr. Bob will just fix me. Really, you have to have both going together.
In our wellness store, we offer a variety of different products. They're all professional lines and products that are tried and true. We have many different types of evaluations and assessments that can tell us what supplement is going to be best for one of our practice members here in the office, so that we're just not throwing the dice when it comes to their health.
The Drugless Doctors is very forward-thinking. It's a lot different than anything else that I had ever seen before, so I felt like I was learning something new.
We have information on social media, our website, our blog. We do TV programs, so we're always putting out good quality information, because more often than not I hear from somebody, I never knew that, or I got that information from a magazine or a TV program and I never really knew that that wasn't correct.
So being able to give them simple tools and natural principles that they can be able to empower themselves to make every day, that's really, it's really exciting for me to be able to see people and their changed lifestyles.
Come and join us and participate with natural drugless chiropractic care. Hello, this is Dr. Bob, Dr. Anthony, and Dr. Kason DeMaria, and we'd like to welcome you back once again to the continuation of the Drugless Doctor. So if you watch me in the first segment right now, have you been bouncing your leg? Am I talking about you? Are you concerned that you might get Alzheimer's and dementia? Do you have depression? Do you know that 20% of you watching me right now, 50 million Americans, have depression and you don't know what to do? And you are so tired of your meds. I had one attorney came in to see us recently. She was on 2 antidepressants. So depression is a huge issue in America today and around the world, and people don't know what to do. So we're going to talk about a few more basics, and I know you're going to find this very intriguing. Dr. Kason.
Now, I know, Dr. Bob, with your book, Trans Fat, The Survival Guide, this is something that impacts all of us, because right now today you see more and more articles on it. You see this in the Wall Street Journal, the USA Today, that butter's good for you, make sure that you're eating enough fat, when a period of time ago it was no fat, low fat, margarine, and we're seeing a lot of different health challenges because of it. But I think this is a topic that some people could get confused about. We see a lot of members coming into our office saying, I have high good cholesterol, low bad cholesterol, but I know that going back to the basics of the building blocks of our body, it's so important that we have the right ingredients. So how come you wrote this book, Dr. Bob?
You know, it's kind of interesting because back in 2000, I released Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 Days. I knew it was all based on trans fat. And trans fat sabotages your body's ability to get healthy and well. So Dr. Kason said something really significant. Margarine. Back in the day, if you didn't eat margarine, you were from Mars. Well, as a drugless doctor, we never promoted margarine. We always, this is our rule. God made versus man tampered. That means GMO is out. Anything that's synthetic is not God made. It's man tampered. But what I'm holding in my hand right now are French fries. The #1 vegetable in America today is this, the French fry. Well, guess what French fries used to be fried in? Trans fat. So I had this theory that trans fat sabotages life. So guess what I did? I did a radio program in New York City on a radio station called The Fan. And it just so happened to be that the mayor of New York City was listening to me and a gentleman by the name of Bob Salter do our radio program. And then after he heard us, as the story goes through the grapevine, is when New York City decided to ban trans fat. And so I knew that I had a short window of time to create a book before the U.S. government, in their infinite wisdom, I'm being very sarcastic right now, created a law about trans fat. So when I started to do the research, and this is so funny about it, so trans fat, a normal fat molecule is C-shape. C's and C's come and they interlock with each other, making cell membranes. The half-life of a cis fat is 18 days. That's why I wrote Dr. Bob's Guide to Stop ADHD in 18 days. So if you're eating chicken nuggets or anything that has trans fat and or partially hydrogenated oils on it, and you're not feeling 100%, if you want to get healthy and well, you have to stop it. These are not my rules. It's just like, stop it. You have to stop trans fat or partially hydrogenated oils. So back in the 1800s, there was this French gentleman who was trying to figure out a way to make wax for candles. So he heated up the oil, added some zinc to it, a catalyst, and some hydrogen, and he came up with what we know today as margarine and/or trans fatty acid. But what's really interesting about the story is that they put it away because that would have totally destroyed the dairy industry of the time. It was around World War II that the American soldiers were over in Europe and they wanted to give them butter, but all the people at home, they pulled this formula out of the back shelf and they made it available to the public. And I can remember when I was a kid and we used to go camping, there was a package, it was about this big, it had this white goop in it and a little red button on the bottom. So what you're supposed to do is you press that button, which was yellow dye, and then you move the yellow dye through this white stuff so it became, and it looked like butter, and it was margarine. And then around the late 1950s, people started having heart issues, so then the soy industry, as they say, created this whole thing that was due to high cholesterol. So people started using margarine, and margarine is made from trans fat. Now watch this. If cell membranes are C-shaped, and then you throw a T in it, the T confuses the body. And that's why people were having ADHD and other health challenges. So they decided in America, they have laws for everything. So they were going to have a law that said if a product had trans fat in it, it's like a gram of trans fat per serving. Now they also did a nurses study, and they said that 20% of the nurses had cardiovascular disease if they ate a ½ gram of trans fat or more per day. That's the same amount of trans fat that they said was okay, because if you look at a package and if it says 0 grams trans fat, turn it over to the nutrition facts, turn it over to the ingredients, and if it says partially hydrogenated oils, you very comfortably and quickly put it back on the shelf, because you are literally eating trans fat. It's a slow death. It's a drip. It's one cookie at a time. So the government was going to say it's okay to eat 0 grams trans fat, but in essence, Dr. Kaysen, it was sabotaging, and it continues to this day because butter is better. I'll throw this little silver bullet out to you. If you want to prevent colon cancer, butter, butyric acid. Do a little research on it. We're always ahead of the game, right, you guys?
You got it.
Okay. We are. So going back to trans fat, so I know we use a product in our office and it is the flax oil. This is a great option for everyone to make a part of your daily routine for omega-3s. And omega-3s, they take inflammation out of the body. The big thing is digging deeper in what are you eating on a regular basis. And with kids, when we have people fill out their diet journals and we see cookies and packaged foods and even these healthy bars, all these things have different chemicals. And even though it might say 0 trans fat, look at the other ingredients, because it may say canola oil or hydrogenated oil or soy oil or sunflower or safflower oil, which also can be a challenge for people with these different omega-6s. Now, Dr. Bob, I know there's another assessment in our practice that we use that can see a lot of different items, and even with digestion and other items we're talking about with trans fat. What is this sophisticated assessment that we can do on someone?
Well, right before I talk about the acoustic cardiogram, I want you to know that the essential fatty acid blood spot test that we talked about in the first segment, if you have trans fat in your body, it will show up. And I want to do a shout out to Omega Nutrition in Canada. They're the ones that